Hello to everybody just joining. This stream's not going to be quite an hour because I'm going to make sure it finishes before 5 o'clock because that's when my video obviously goes live for today. So I'm going to make sure the stream finishes then so it doesn't eat into that video. But yeah, I thought I could just come on for just under an hour today. So that's what I'm going to do now. And the video tonight's one on camouflage that some people had requested before, so if you're interested in that, it might be of obviously interest to you. PC's fine, but I haven't had any PC problems at all other than where Windows 10 screwed everything up. Alright, Mike? So yeah, for those people who weren't in right at the start when I said it, I'm going to be on for just less than an hour today, so I'm going to finish it just before 5 o'clock, because obviously I don't want it to mess about with people watching the video that goes on at 5 PM, because then I think YouTube stops people seeing your videos. Yeah, I'm alright today. Was obviously volunteering earlier, but got home earlier and was sorting some stuff out, because I'm having to clean out all of my car now, because I'll probably list that for sale at the weekend. So yeah, just sort of finishing clearing out the car now, and then yeah, once that's all done at the weekend I can list it for sale and hopefully sell it within a week, and then that's all sorted. I work with animals. I work at an animal shelter, so I volunteer for the Blue Cross. Today I was working with rabbits and guinea pigs. I was having to restrain a giant rabbit for medication part of today, which is interesting. But yeah, just sort of rabbits and rats and guinea pigs and everything today. There's an FAQ video coming up on that, so I won't answer that today because I'll check what day that's on for you. That is the video that goes live on June the 18th at 5 PM. So June the 18th is Monday. So on Monday that question is answered in a 5-minute FAQ video. So that'll be on that. Yeah, have you heard they're actually trying to get him killed now? So, yep. Sort of makes me wonder just how long they push until they push this country into civil war. I do have a Discord server, but it's for patrons only. So links in the description as always. Hello to everybody just joining. But yeah, there's I think people like Saturday's video. Oh, sorry, no, I think it's actually Friday's video. Yeah, Friday's video, so tomorrow's video is on the modern Polish NBC suit, with a test in the shower of that and everything, and that was a really good suit, so that might be one of my go-to suits other than my rubber ones. So that should be interesting for anybody interested in it. Nah, not after I split up with her. I never know when I'm doing live streams, I just do them when I do them. Yeah, it's the Fu 1 suit, when the video comes out tomorrow. GP5's like 6 out of 10. Like I said, GP5's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, because people seem to think it's either really like the best mask ever or utter crap, where it was very good at the time it was made, especially as it was for civilians. But the issue of it today obviously is mostly that it's a GOST mask, so unless you can get like Polish FP5 filters or something similar, you can't really safely use the mask. I haven't got the Dacia yet. As I've said before, I'm picking it up on the 1st of next month. Yeah, I think slow mode's on like 20 seconds or something. I think somebody asked that the other day, and I think the French Tissot mask from World War 1 is really weird looking. But there's quite a few weird looking masks. So yeah, tonight's video is on camouflage, tomorrow's video is on the Polish Fu-1 suit. Saturday's video is on types of helmets because I got a few requests for helmet videos. And Sunday's video is on the IP4M rebreather. Obviously I don't use it because I'm not dumb enough to use a rebreather. But there's some quite good videos coming out over the next few days of stuff you won't have seen before. GP5 because it actually takes filters, not cheek filters. Right, I suppose as long as you can watch the stuff or listen to the stuff without actually getting caught, that's fine. Wow, I only have a replica PH gas hood, I don't have a real one. And if you had, in theory, a real one, you'd need the chemicals to soak it in, otherwise it wouldn't work. Because it's about as primitive as a gas mask as you can get, because it doesn't use a proper filter. It uses chemical reactions. So yeah, the PH gas hood was obviously quite an interesting thing when it came out, but it soon became outdated because the P and the PH was for chlorine, H was for phosgene, and then obviously they couldn't keep adding more and more chemicals to a piece of like cloth to work against more types of gas. The other gas mask designs I hate are like the cloth ones, a bit like the Hungarian M76, because it's just really hard to get a proper face seal of those. It depends, Vector, because that totally depends on copyright. That's the issue I don't normally do it, is because you can then get your video copyright striked when the automated system sees you've got an image that you don't own the rights to. Well, if you're actually doing important exams, you ought to really be revising for that, but I never really bothered revising for my GCSEs or A-levels, and I was fine with that, so I'm one of those people who just doesn't really do well if I revise, because it just stresses me out more. I've got military surplus, it's either German or Austrian boots. There's one lot I wore to death, which I think were my Austrian boots. And I think it's the German boots I've got at the moment. Oh, actually I do have some East German Jack boots as well, but I never wear those. If you want to donate, the Patreon link's in the description. That's very kind of you. Then you'll get a Discord server invite. So click the link if you're interested. Alright, cool. I think you're quicker than 5 minutes there, Mike. You were 2. Well, when I'm doing these streams, I do respond to people. I actually respond to pretty much all the comments anyway. I'm pretty much a non-practicing Christian, because I sort of do believe there's more than we can explain with science at the moment, but I don't really like organised religion, because that's where a lot of the violence comes from regarding religion. So pretty much my interpretation of it is do whatever you want as long as you don't start forcing it down people's throats. Yeah, M17s are cool masks. I quite like the M17. It's just a shame cheek filter masks became so impractical. Like, because the thing is, because I both collect masks and kind of evaluate masks, there are lots of masks I don't mind having in the collection because I'm not, you know, wearing them for practicality reasons. The reason I don't like cheek filter masks is because, you know, just because if you were a soldier with one, there was just so many more ways you could be screwed with it if, you know, the filters ran out and you had nothing you could do about it. Yeah, like I said, I'm up for a meet-up with somebody like Weapon Collector, but it'd have to be both when we've got free time to do it. I mean, the good thing is next month I should have my new car, so that makes doing something like that a bit easier, but it has to be when everybody has obviously time to do it. Yeah, exactly. Rebreathers are really cool, but there's something you should only use if you're trained to use it and have one in perfect working condition. You really don't mess about with rebreathers. I still need to do a video on it, a Belgian military backpack, like a waterproof one, and that was going to be to set up like an emergency rough sleeping bag, but I've not got around to doing it yet. Saying about stupidest thing people have said about gas masks, that's almost impossible to answer, because every day I get lots of stupid comments. Majority of the comments I get are very good comments and questions, but now and again you get people who try and be smart and have no idea what they're talking about. But I think the recent one that really I thought was stupid was the guy saying Surgical masks give you NBC protection, so why would you ever waste your money on a gas mask? Like, yeah, a mask that's not even airtight apparently gives you protection from chemicals and radiation. No, I'm not hyped for Fallout 76 at all. I'll have to see what it's like when it comes out, but from what I understand it's just like a multiplayer game with no single player, no NPCs, no radio. It's just a Bethesda cash grab as far as I can tell. Yep, they did do an M17 with filters, but it's experimental mask. Also, the XM40 before the M40, the prototype M40 looked a lot more like an M17 because it had more M17 parts they used. Totally depends on the mask, but there's not many German masks to be honest. So probably a Soviet mask, because then I could have the SHMS. Well, my Golf isn't big enough to get all my gas masks in either, so it doesn't matter. Mute has what I think's meant to be an Avon M50, but it doesn't really look entirely like the M50. I think I said in my Rainbow Six Siege video, the stupid thing about that is where he's got the tape over the exhale valve, it would actually make a really loud farting noise when he was actually breathing out, so rather than making it quieter, it would just be every time he exhales. No, I've done a video on how I store my masks, and it's basically wherever I get space. Some are hanging up that aren't worth much, or are damaged. Lots of them are in satchels, just shoved in cupboards wherever I can find space for them. Yeah, the American military uses Avon M50s, and a lot of US police forces and like the FBI use the Avon FM12. No, I don't have a Snapchat. I'm 24, 25 in a couple of months. Hence the name Weaponsandstuff93. Yeah, that's the sad thing, is lots of people don't know anything about gas masks and respirators and then spurt lots of stuff off about them. Like, yeah, some guy was actually saying that, you know, in his job he has to handle dangerous chemicals and he uses a surgical mask because why waste money on an actual mask with filters when a surgical mask just does the same job? It's like, there's no charcoal in it, it's not airtight, it does nothing to protect you from airborne pollutants. Yep, as I said, I always get asked about why don't you buy this mask. It's literally because I have to spot one for a good price. I've only ever seen one M2000 that keeps getting listed on eBay. It's always listed at £100 plus postage. And it's obviously not sold in months, the guy listing it, so that's obviously a hint for him. He should lower it in price if he wants to sell it. Yeah, but I bet for those private servers you have to pay Bethesda to host them, won't you? Again, like I said, I have no interest in it. Maybe when it's on sale if it does well, but like I said, I like single-player Bethesda games. I know this is the first time they're really kind of trying, apart from the Elder Scrolls Online, to do an online game, but as I said, the quality of their games has dropped a long way since Morrowind, so... you just go on eBay and you can buy masks on eBay. Lots of them get sold on there, because eBay's like one of the biggest sites in the world for just selling stuff online. Anybody can register as a seller and sell stuff, so you can buy brand new stuff. I've done a video on the TF1 versus the GP5, but basically the TF1 is a Chinese copy of the SHM family masks, but it uses a plastic intake-outtake valve and plastic lenses, and it's a NATO thread or a normalised thread. Because 40mm filters are more... Basically, you don't have to make the mask as big where the filter adapter is, or like the filter screw, because 60 and 40mm filters are roughly the same size. It's not like 60mm filters are much bigger. It's just that 40mm filters need less space on the side of a mask to screw in. Favourite mask is the Avon CT12, as I've answered over and over. There's videos on my channel, so I'd advise you look up videos on stuff rather than asking those questions over and over. That doesn't surprise me, but like I said, I've said before, I don't get into politics on this channel. I mean, I keep going into it, but I shouldn't. But as I said, I don't go into politics on these live streams. It's in there in the description, so I really don't want to start arguing about the Israeli-Palestine conflict, because people keep trying to bring that up. Which side do you support, where people claim the Holy Land? It's stupid for both sides. For the suit, I'd wear my homemade NBC suit. Well, homemade in the sense I'm using fishing waders with a Polish L1 top half. But, if I had to go with a full-on actual proper NBC suit, probably my Polish Fu1 suit that I've got now. Not interested at all in Battlefield 5, didn't buy Battlefield 1, didn't buy Battlefield 4, so yeah, no interest. Yeah, gas masks can expire, but it's unlikely they will, because rubbers last absolutely ages, you know, that's why they're kind of pollutant in a sense. Pretty much anything with a gas mask can break, but I've done a video where I explain what's most likely to break on a mask, and it's generally the straps that always go first on a mask, because they get the most use, you know, like tightening and loosening, like the buckles on straps. No, I haven't got a PS4, so I'm not interested in The Last of Us or Last of Us 2. I've done videos, yeah, if you just search my channel you can see I've got a load of videos on a lot of subjects, and I do have ones on about various emergencies. But for the most part, when it comes to gas masks and respirators, as long as it's 40mm, you can get the filters for it and the mask's in good condition, it doesn't matter. It's really personal preference and what's in your budget range. Because, like I said, I've got a massive collection of masks, and pretty much every mask I have from the last 30 years, other than the GSR, the ones that are in 40mm, they're all as good as each other. Well, they're not as good as each other, but if you just simply want a mask to protect you, your requirements aren't very high. It's just, with some masks, it ends up being lightweight comfort over like several hours of having it on. How easy is it to shoulder a rifle with it and everything like that? Yeah, I mean, Metro Exodus I'm sort of interested in, because I've heard it's going to be more open world, and that's what I don't really like with Last Light and the first Metro 2033, is it's too linear, which I'm not a fan of linear corridor shooters. But if it's open world, I might get it when it's on sale. As I've said, I have nothing against the Metro series, but I'm not a massive fan of it. And lots of people seem to get annoyed on here because they want me to be a massive fan of Metro, but I've played them several times. I've never really gotten into the Metro games. Like, I've completed them, it's not like I, you know, left the game partway through, but I've just never really understood all the hype for Metro. I mean, I can see why people like it, it's just I personally, I don't think it's a bad game or anything, I just don't think it's a brilliant game. So whenever any people always keep asking me about Metro, I'm like, whatever. Because I said the GSR, I get asked this every stream, I think the GSR looks cool, it's just a crap mask, but for looking cool it's fine, and for a picture it doesn't need to actually function, does it? I already got asked about Battlefield 5 a couple of minutes ago if you were listening, and said I've got no interest in it. Yeah, the Resident Evil 2 remake, I haven't seen much of it, but, I mean, is it going to be like Resident Evil 4? Because if it's like Resident Evil 4, I'd be really interested. But I don't like the old Resident Evil really clunky controls, you know, with the constantly changing camera angles and everything like that. So if it's like Resident Evil 4, I'd be quite interested. Yeah, I've played CSGO, but I've not played it enough to ever get really good at it. And a game like CSGO, you can't really play casually for fun because the skill ceiling's too high. Yeah, I get asked about music a lot. I listen to anything I like the sound of, but prog rock's probably my favourite genre. But prog rock's kind of a dead genre. Now and again you'll get a band that does kind of proggy music, but it's kind of like, you know, 70s and 80s, there's a lot of prog rock stuff. A gas mask's better than nothing in a house fire, but it doesn't supply you with oxygen. And again, I've covered it in videos before. Yeah, if it's like Resident Evil 4, then I'm suddenly a lot more interested in it, because just the gameplay of Resident Evil 4 is so much better than the older games. You know, I'd like them to remake all the Resident Evils, really, with Resident Evil 4's system, because just over-the-shoulder camera is just a lot more fluid and fun to play. Never really listened to hard bass. People keep asking me that, I guess because it's some sort of meme, but yeah, I've never really listened to it. So I don't think it's an awful genre, but it's not something I'd really go out and listen to. Hard to say. I'd probably just grab my most expensive masks, but for the most part, it's like getting yourself out of the fire is more important than material possessions, because apart from the really rare stuff, you can always buy another. The only really gory game I can remember. Has anyone played the old Punisher game that was on PS2 and Xbox? The original Xbox. That was quite good. Because you had like the interrogations where you'd push people into like wood chippers and stuff like that. That was quite fun. But after that they didn't really do any more Punisher games.
I don't keep them in a bag, but yeah, I've got a wardrobe just filled with Soviet filters, and I've got other wardrobes of them in. I've probably got like 20 or so of those GP5 style filters that are never going to get used, that just sit around the house. That's why I did the dissection video on the GP5 filter after enough time. Yeah, that's that mission at the zoo, isn't there, of the piranhas and the rhino and everything. But yeah, because I had so many GP5 filters, that's why I didn't mind doing it on a dented GP5 filter, but I'm not going to just do it on any random filter, because for the most part all filters look the same on the inside. It's a particulate filter and a charcoal filter, there's not really much to them. One of the main reasons was just so I could point out which bit's the asbestos bit in the filter. I don't have an XM40, wish I did. I have an XM28, if that's what you're thinking of, the grasshopper. But the XM40 is the M40 prototype, and I don't have an XM40 or an M40. Yeah, I've played the original Manhunt, didn't play Manhunt 2. What's interesting is the guy, is he called Starkweather? I can't remember the guy's voice, who's like the one who's forcing you to do everything. It's Brian Cox who voiced him, who was the original Hannibal Lecter. He's in loads of things, Brian Cox. He was in Deadwood for a few episodes in the last series of Deadwood. He was in Summer Sharp. Scottish actor, he's quite good. He's been in a lot of documentaries as well. Favourite series? Probably the Avon like S10 CT12 style masks. I don't know what you call those, because obviously 12, I guess you call them the 10 and 12 series, but the only reason that, you know, the S10 was called the S10 was because it was kind of, even though it wasn't the 10th British service mask. Well, I'll just keep doing videos like I'm doing now. Nothing particularly different about it. I don't have a 3M full face mask. I might get one at some point, but I'm not paying full price for a 3M full face mask, because full price they're quite expensive. Yeah, I think they spelt his name differently though, didn't they, in Manhunter? It's like Lecter with a K or something, but yeah. What he did was a really good documentary series. You might be able to find them on YouTube. They were called Addicted to Pleasure, and it was all about, you know, like on hardcore drugs, where he'd do a different episode all about the history of some of like the world's most addictive drugs. But they were really good balanced documentary ones, because what I liked about the tobacco one, it was all the history of tobacco and everything. But it wasn't like a really anti-smoking one, which was what I quite liked. Obviously, yeah, they're saying, you know, smoking's addictive and kind of bad, but it wasn't like documentaries that have to spend half an hour telling you you're going to get cancer over and over. It was more about the actual history of tobacco and everything else. So that was a really good documentary, I thought, because if you're interested more in the history of tobacco, you actually got that from that documentary. Not that, oh, they have to put the warning labels on the cigarettes because Philip Morris is going to kill you with their cigarettes. Oh no. Yeah, I've played Killzone 1 and 2. Yeah, just because I find it interesting. Again, there's FAQ videos on my channel, so I advise you watch those rather than keep asking me these sort of questions, because most of these are in videos. So watch a big backlog of videos before you ask those sort of questions. Yeah, I'm tempted to get more Chinese masks. It's just getting things, you know, like I said, because I'm buying a car next month, I need to be quite careful with my money. And I did cash out all my Patreon money recently to buy my Mark 7 helmet, where the videos will be coming up on that fairly soon. But yeah, I will get more Chinese masks, it's just as and when I get them. The other thing as well is if I'm importing masks from other countries, there's always the risk customs will steal them and I'll lose all the money, which is a problem. So, yeah, I think I've moaned on here a lot about customs. It's why I've told people overseas never to send me stuff, because they could send me something really expensive and customs could nick it. Cool. Sadly I haven't got an M40, but as I said, it's because I can't legally buy one from America. I have to wait for one to be listed at a good price for sale in the UK or Europe. Oh, the Halgas gas mask's actually a half face mask. It's not a full face mask, it's a half face mask. Most of them have goggles on. When you say what's your favourite Soviet, do you mean what's my favourite Soviet gas mask? That's the SHMS. I might try another homemade gas mask video, because what I've got is I've got a Polish MP5, like the base bit of the mask, without all the parts on it. And I've also been sent, and I've done a video on it, but it's not live yet. B-Store sent me a gas mask repair kit, which has loads of valves in, like, you know, dozens of valves, and intake-outtake valves, and mask parts, and screw threads, and everything else. So it means I could probably build my own mask from lots of the random bits in the kit. So that's kind of interesting. It's not people in Britain that can't get American masks, it's people everywhere not in America, because it's a US law. They're banned from export, unless they're sold by the US sort of military or Department of Defense. Alright? But yeah, because I quite often get people like, oh, I spotted an M40, and then they'll post a link to a US seller on eBay. I was like, oh, you do realise that that's a US seller. But a lot of the time when you explain that to people, they don't really get it. But yeah, it's because of the Cold War, the Americans passed a rule to do with like secrets of defence and state and everything, where any kind of military item or military surplus is considered confidential. So it's banned from export sales unless it's specifically a government-made sale. If you go to a holiday in America, you can buy the stuff and put it in your suitcase. Well, the funny thing is, like, some of the masks that they don't want to let you export are like World War II masks, so it's just basically a law they've never gotten rid of, that's not really relevant because a lot of the stuff's all stolen by now anyway. It's like a Military Secrets Act. Well, you shouldn't actually use a GP5 the filter for reasons I've gone on to loads of times, but if you're determined to give yourself lung cancer, go ahead, but yeah, maybe the plug's on it. But as said, if you're going to use a GP5 original filter, you're kind of an idiot. You've been warned enough times, because people keep saying to me, oh, I found a video of some kid wearing a GP5 filter, can you go and tell him in the comments, because he's not listening to me. I was like, well, no. If they're not going to listen the first time when you tell them it's got asbestos in, what are you supposed to do? I'm not going to waste my time trying to hunt down people wearing GP5s to tell them not to do it. I don't have a PPM88 or the GP9, which is like last of Soviet masks. There's quite a lot of variants of PDFs I don't have. I don't have the last generation of PDF or the weird side-loading generation of PDF. But yeah, in general there's lots of Soviet masks. I don't have a lot of World War II Soviet masks either. For modern masks, I've got an S10, a BEM 4GP, Israeli M15, CT12, FM12, Scott GSR, some Chinese masks that are sort of modern. That's probably about it. Polish MP5. But like everybody always asks, I can't really afford to buy modern masks, so I'm not going to spend over 100 on a mask. That's like a waste of money. Yeah, but you do know a cotton ball is not going to block asbestos. You need a particulate level 3 filter to do that. Well, I'm not in America, so I can't carry a gun for self-defense. So I've got videos on my entire gun or deactivated gun collection, but I don't have any live firing guns other than air rifles. Yeah, I said before, civilian, the 4A1, the Israeli civilian gas mask, very good because it's a universal one-size-fits-all adult mask. So you're pretty much guaranteed to be able to get it to fit you even if it's not a comfortable fit. As has been said, if you've not been listening to what I've been saying, I'll do videos on masks when I see them at affordable prices. It's totally pointless saying to me, are you going to get X mask? Because I only get them if they're at affordable prices and interesting. It's like people, I've started blocking people now that keep asking me about the same masks over and over again, because if you're not going to listen to what I say, why bother asking? Yeah, I've seen people do that with loads of the cheek filter masks. There's some sites where they've got pictures of the cheek filters on the outside of the cheeks. Alright, glad you enjoyed the videos, Alpha Wolf. But yeah, I'm not saying that to have a go at people, but what I am saying is, it's pointless to ask me, are you going to get an X mask, because I pretty much buy any different mask I don't have in my collection if I see them at good prices. For a handgun, probably the SIG P226 or P226. If you wanted to go more classic though, Browning high power. If it had to be a revolver, something like a Colt Python. And as I said, if I could have one live firing rifle, it would be an actual shooting L1A1 SLR. But for replica PH gas hoods, they're like £20 to £30 because they're just cheap replicas that don't work. If you want to get an original World War I PH gas hood, I guess you'd be paying a few £100, if not £1,000. Cool, yeah, I really like the look of the Colt Python, but there's lots of those really, you know, like really nice looking Magnum revolvers I like the looks of, but for practicality reasons, if I ever could get a handgun, I mean, obviously I can't, I'm in the UK, but, you know, just as a theoretical thing, I think a lot of just the high mag capacity 9mm ones are just pretty practical, just because it's plentiful ammo. You know, you can get a lot of time training it, and as long as you're a good shot with them, it doesn't matter. Because I think I've recommended Paul Harrell's channel quite a few times on here, but if you've not watched his videos, his is very good because he's a former US Marine Corps shooting instructor. So lots of his videos are very good because he kind of dispels a lot of gun myths, where what he generally ends up saying every time is it's always down to you training with your gun and being accurate with it and buying good quality ammunition. For the most part, it doesn't matter, you know, within reason what the caliber there is. I think my IP5 was size 2, but yeah, his point is generally like you need to get a gun, then you need to train with it, and you need to buy good ammo. You know, because there's lots of people who sit about on the internet and argue my caliber is better than your caliber, but you know, really most calibers are just as good as each other if you actually take the time to train to use it. Wow, the Avon M50 and Scott GSR is basically a return to cheek filters. It's just they plug in on the outside of the mask. So yeah, the Avon M50 looks pretty practical, but sadly because I don't have one I can't give an opinion on it, but from everything I've seen, the M50 is a very nice mask. It's just I'm not going to pay well over 100 for one. Yeah, it's like with 45 versus 9mm versus 40 Smith & Wesson, is it, versus 357 SIG. With all of those calibers, it's as pretty much, if the person is using good quality ammunition and they can aim their gun, all of them are as effective as each other. Within reason, like I know sometimes if somebody's wearing a Kevlar vest, then some of them are slightly better than others, but yeah, for the most part, it's as long as you're a good shooter with your gun, that's all that matters. It doesn't really matter theoretically how many rounds are in a magazine if you can't hit your target. It's all that sort of thing. Yeah, as I've said before, the Time Splitters series are my favourite games ever. Time Splitters Rewind, I don't know if there's been an update on that, but that should be very good when that eventually comes out for free. Yeah, IP5 sizes are smaller than the same regular Soviet mask sizes because they're designed to be watertight. So, yeah. Bear in mind, if you only barely fit into a size 2 GP5, an IP5 size 2 is much smaller. Yeah, I mean, hopefully it comes out and is good, but like I said, with a lot of those projects, I know they get abandoned, but I know they've been doing Rewind and doing updates on it for quite a while. Yeah, I mean, practically you're never going to use the IP5 anyway, so the size doesn't really matter. Now, as I've explained on pretty much every stream, I live with my parents because house prices in the UK are totally unaffordable. And minimum wage, if I was working a minimum wage job, would not pay housing, rent, or ownership. So you pretty much have to inherit a house in the UK now, unless you're filthy rich. Yeah, I'm alright, thanks. I said I was volunteering earlier. My hay fever was playing up a bit earlier, but it's that time of year, so I'm looking forward to when we get back into autumn again. I'm miserable when it comes to the summer. Oh, it's too hot and my hay fever gets set off. I'm 24, this was answered earlier in the stream if you're bothering to listen. This is a problem. If you're watching the stream, listen to when I answer it, because I've noticed in a lot of these streams, people often ask the same questions over and over again. The one that made me laugh, Mike, was when we were watching your stream the other day. And there was that guy who asked the question over and over about your top knives, and the guy asking the question over and over, why did the Navy
not use gas masks or whatever it was. It's like, you know, it was answered several times, but you must have been not paying attention every time it was answered. As I said, I'm 24. My username should give that away. Well, my parents think it's good because it makes me money, so they don't really care because it's an actual useful collection. I explained in the video what I was doing if you bothered watching it. I said I was working with animals, and yeah, it's a dust mask. I've explained this over and over again, but people keep asking questions rather than listening to the video. Yeah, I'm getting a Dacia Sandero, which gets asked several times in each stream as well. Yeah, the thing that annoys me, Angelo, is when people ask a question that I answer in the actual video as well. So, you know, like where somebody's probably left a comment after 10 seconds of the video because they want to be, oh, first. Which I've said, if you leave a first comment now, I give you a warning. If you do it again, you get a block because I'm sick of first comments. I just delete them now. People are so desperate a lot of the time to get in and leave a comment that they don't actually listen to what I say in the video. And they're like, why didn't you mention this when it's actually in the video? Yeah, I know, because it was like that question that annoyed me was where he kept saying, why are you allowed a beard in the Navy? And I was like, well, I think it's because in the Navy they actually use air-supplied masks that are positive pressure because of, like, you know, firefighting on the ships and everything. And then it was, but why do they have beards? That's answered over and over. Well, I guess scuba, because you can use it underwater and land, where actual SCBA you can only use on land. But yeah, it's because when you work with hay and straw, you can be exposed to spores and dust with the hay and straw, which can lead to farmer's lung, and just like coughing, wheezing, hay fever, all that sort of stuff. So if I don't have a respirator on, I'll start coughing and, you know, sneezing and everything. Where the respirator will totally protect me from that because it stops you inhaling the spores and all the dust. Yeah, I've said to people before on here that, you know, a gas mask is the most practical thing. That's why they're still used, because it's just the mask and the filter. Like, positive pressure masks have a lot of advantages, but there's also a lot of disadvantages with them. It's like when people keep asking about the rebreathers, it's like, no, a rebreather is literally something you use in a zero oxygen environment with a lot more risks attached to it. The rebreather is like, you know, when nothing else can do the job sort of thing. You don't casually just use a rebreather. A regular gas mask filter would just get clogged with water and it wouldn't work because that will damage and dilute the charcoal and damage the particulate filter. If it's a rebreather, you can explode. Yeah, it is, for the most part, water just damages a regular filter. It's just more interesting with rebreathers where they can make poison gas, they can set on fire or explode. But yeah, regular filters are just not going to work. Also, if you're underwater and you've got a gas mask on, you can't breathe, right? Because I keep getting people ask that. The filter does not provide you with oxygen. A filter, obviously, is just a filter, but lots of people seem to keep thinking filters like little oxygen canisters, despite how many times I explain they're not. But people keep asking that, I guess, because they can't be bothered to actually read up on what a filter really does, or listen to me explain what a filter does. Which I always find, it's annoying, but it's quite funny. But why can't I breathe underwater with a gas mask on? Why can't I breathe in space with a gas mask on? Most cheeky-breaky thing I've ever seen is my cheeky-breaky videos. When you say oxygen canisters, do you just mean like pony tanks for scuba diving? Yeah, of course you can get those. You can get them for air rifles as well, but then they're normally filled with CO2, not oxygen. Cool. What mask are you going to get? Either Amazon or eBay. Literally all my lighters are from Amazon or eBay. I don't actually have a plasmatic lighter though. I've got like the Chinese copies of them, but they're exactly the same thing as well. Right, I'll be on the stream for about 10 more minutes or so. I'll finish it like 5 to 5 or just a bit closer to 5. Now, as I said, on all my prepping videos, I've got very short-term preps, but because I'm chronically ill, I'd die if my medication stopped anyway, so I don't see the point in prepping for very long-term stuff. As I've explained before, there's no point in me making a ghillie suit because I can just use scrim nets or camouflage, which are just as effective. I've gone over this every time I do a scrim net thing, or whenever people ask me it. Cool. Yeah. As I said, the M40 masks are cool, but I don't have any of them because I can't legally buy them, so I have to wait until somebody sells one in the UK for not stupid amounts of money. But as I said, there was lots of problems with the M40 series because they were all made out of silicon, and silicon is not a good material to make military masks from. You could raid pharmacies, but when you've got medication that only lasts about a year, if that, you know, before it stops being effective, and you don't really know if there's going to be any more, I probably wouldn't bother. Yeah, like I said, if I was going to get a ghillie suit, I'd definitely make my own, rather than buy one. But, again, if I was to make a ghillie suit, all I'd do is get a set of woodland camouflage, buy a couple of scrim nets, cut the scrim nets up, and just sew them onto the camouflage. Yeah, I used to do judo. I did that for a couple of years before getting bored of it. I can't remember. I think I got to yellow belt. But like I said, it was one of those things where I in some of the tournaments I did, I think I came like third in one of them. But it's just I didn't really have much time for martial arts when I got more busy with secondary school and stuff like that. So yeah, but I think with a lot of the martial arts as well, it's more knowing when to preemptively throw a punch is more important in a fight than actually knowing martial arts. Because it's like all the people who keep saying, oh, you should learn Krav Maga because it's like the best martial art. But if you actually listen to a lot of the special forces people when they talk about Krav Maga, they're like, it's only good as a last resort when you don't have a gun or a knife. You know, there's, like with most of these martial arts, it's like a last resort thing if you have nothing else. Personally, if I had the option of like a knife or a machete for self-defense or a martial art, I'd always go for being armed. And there's, I mean, not that I'm recommending people go and look them up, but there's lots of videos on LiveLeak where people try and do martial arts and get themselves killed. Where, you know, rather than running from a fight or just handing over their wallet, they decide they're actually going to be a kung fu master and they just get killed because of it. Because, you know, when somebody's got a gun or a knife, you really don't try and do Jackie Chan shit. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to probably not bother doing any more dyeing unless I need to actually dye faded camos, because it takes quite a lot of time, and as I said, I like buying actual proper camouflages. But yeah, you could easily do your own camo things, either by painting with dyes onto things. I think I'd actually rather paint with dyes, to be honest, with paintbrushes. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm saying, I'm not saying that martial arts are completely pointless, because I think there's lots of times where if you're unarmed, both people are unarmed, and one person knows a martial art, they're probably going to come out on top. And things like that, but I think there's a lot of people who seem to think knowing a martial art makes them invulnerable, where in reality, you know, the worst thing that could happen is you get yourself killed. I'd probably buy the dyes, but, you know, like, you know, I just use a paintbrush and stuff to paint stuff rather than, oh, I actually have kind of got a Gorka suit now, but I've not filmed a video on it yet. I've got, like, the Ukrainian equivalent of a Gorka suit. But you'll burn to death if you wear it in the summer, because it's designed for, like, -something temperatures. I've not filmed a video on it. I'll get a video filmed of it fairly soon, but it looks pretty cool, but I won't have a proper chance to test it until the winter, because, but I wouldn't pay much for them, that's the thing. Like, I see lots of Gorka suits set for sale online for, like, over £100 and that, but personally, yeah, as I was saying, if you do the martial arts, you know, I think it's better than not knowing them, but you obviously, I think you actually need to, like I was saying earlier, you know, you need to know when and when not to use it, kind of thing. Because I was saying, I think the biggest danger is the people who get a really big false sense of security. You know, who then decide, oh, if I'm being mugged by several people who are armed, I'm just going to do my martial arts. And yeah, maybe they hit 1 or 2 people and then they get stabbed.
It's also like the one that really pissed me off was where a guy was saying to me, rather than buying stab-proof vest, you should have learnt martial arts. It's like, no, I'd rather fucking trust my life on a stab-proof vest than a martial art, because a stab-proof vest is guaranteed to protect you from a knife stab, especially if you didn't know it was coming. Favourite game was answered earlier, mate. It's Time Splitters. When you say Charles Bronson, the actor or the prisoner? Because I think the prisoner's changed his name now, isn't he? He's no longer Charles Bronson. He's got another name. But I do like the Charles Bronson movies, like Die Hard. Charles Bronson. Didn't you watch the video the other day where I said cunt and it really surprised people? Where I said I'd run the cunt over if he attacked me with a knife. When you say a juggernaut suit, what do you mean? Do you mean like one of those bomb defusal suits? Yeah, have you seen a Tom Hardy film about him? That's quite good. No, Death Wish. Well, speaking about Die Hard, Bruce Willis was playing in Death Wish. Yeah, it's Charles Salvador, that's it, Mike. I've never used Etsy before, so I don't know. I said I've never used it, so I can't really give an opinion. I just use eBay. It's like people keep going, but where did you buy this mask? eBay. It didn't come from somewhere special, it came from eBay. I think I've only ever got 1 or 2 masks from Army surplus stores, because for the most part they're rip-offs. I think the UK gun laws are a bit shit, because as this country is getting worse and worse, criminals can easily buy guns now on the black market, so it's just innocent people that are unarmed. I also don't trust the police, so... Yeah, they remade Death Wish. Yeah, they remade Death Wish with, what's his name in it? Bruce Willis. I didn't think it was too bad. I thought it was actually quite good. It's not as good as the original, but it's still a fine film. There's nothing wrong with it. I was quite surprised, because I always think those remakes are going to be out of shit. Lots of police do have guns in the UK. They have armed police. But all the other police have tasers and everything else. Like I said, I don't trust the police because they're becoming a political tool now, not actual police. I might watch that again. I've only seen a Bronson movie once, and that was years ago, but I remember quite liking it. But Legend's probably the Tom Hardy film I've watched the most times. They're doing a second series of Taboo, aren't they, of Tom Hardy, and I don't really know how they're going to do a second series when the first one seemed to be neatly wrapped up, but Taboo was quite a good thing. I was surprised the BBC would actually fund something like Taboo, because it's not very BBC friendly, but... I have a use for you. Yeah, in lots of urban areas now you get armed police patrols due to terrorism. So, yeah, your regular beat cops don't carry guns, but they're arming more and more of the police now just because of the terrorism risk. And because the UK's probably getting closer and closer to civil war. They want all the cops as basically a paramilitary force. It depends, because they basically have bought lots of different shit. The police, when they were armed near me recently, had kitted out M4s. They had like a scope and a red dot on it at the same time, which I thought was a bit pointless, but I guess that's my taxpayers' money being good to put to good use, wasn't it? Putting 2 scopes you can't use at the same time on your gun. But yeah, the armed police have MP5s, MP7s, Glocks, G36s, M4s. I think some of them have... I don't think they've ever used the L85A2s, but they've got loads of different equipment. There's not like a standardisation really of equipment of the armed police forces in the UK. Yeah, at one point they deployed the soldiers and then they recalled them really quickly. They basically put them out for like a couple of days after a terrorist attack to go, look, we're doing something, and then they took them off the streets. Personally, I think rather than being in pointless wars in the Middle East, I trust the army a lot more than I trust the police. And the reason I say that, it's not like I'm a fan of martial law, but a lot of the people in the British Army are obviously working class, whereas the police is still a very classist kind of institutionalised thing of hatred towards the poor. Right, hello to your co-workers. So, well, if it's me bringing up politics, it's fine, but like, that's the kind of rule. If I drift off into it, it's fine because it's my channel and my stream. It's just when other people try and drift it off too much into politics. But when people are talking about armed police, that's not actually really politics, because we're kind of more talking about weapons. Yeah, Mike was saying that earlier. His name's now Charles Salvador, whatever it is, so he's still alive. I know there's quite a lot of stuff each year where they do more petitions to try and get him released, because American police, as far as I'm aware, haven't covered up child rape. MP7's inferior to the P90 though. I think it's because he was trying to reform his character, because if you don't know, he's got a life sentence even though he doesn't technically have a life sentence. There was a thing a couple of years ago where about 4 or 5 police just beat the shit out of a soldier for no reason when he was on leave. I don't know if you remember that, but they thought it was funny because there is a lot of problems in the UK of police brutalities. Much as people try and say, oh, it's the American police that are bad, I think the police does attract kind of a lot of bad people. Because I've known a lot of good people in the police and they've all left it because they don't feel like they're actually stopping real criminals. And I think a lot of the people join the police just because they want to beat people up. And again, I'm not saying that as to be bad to, you know, lots of people in the police, because there are a lot of good, honest people in the police, but I just really don't trust them as an institution because they're far too politically kind of controlled. Yeah, but at least you've got police to respond. You see, in the UK, there could be people stabbing each other and then no police turn up because, oh, sorry, we don't have any police to spare. They're trawling through online comments to see if you said something offensive to arrest you for it. Never heard of Albert Dryden, so I can't give you an opinion. It's like in Japan, apparently their crime rate is so low in Japan now, they're actually having to find things for the police to do in Japan that are like really minor things just to make use of actually having police, because they don't actually have to respond to crimes. Yeah, like what Mike said about Bronson, it's because he's trying to kind of get released from prison. And I said he's kind of howled on a life sentence even though it's not a life sentence. So, you know, he's stuck there. And I said I think I've signed some of the petitions for it, but again, he's been put in prison for life even though he's not done any crimes deserving of a life sentence. So, there you go. Now, I think one of the best countries for gun laws is Switzerland, because they have all the firearms there, but nobody goes around shooting each other in Switzerland, do they? So. Well, like we said, the justice system in this country is pretty broken, to be honest, when you can be arrested, put on trial, not allowed to have your lawyer, sentenced and put into prison within about 4 hours. Goes to show that we're turning into a proper police state. Also that they can put you in for one thing but keep you there indefinitely if they want to. Yeah, he should be, but like I said, it's the UK, we're a police state, why would they want to let him out of prison? Anyway, it's 2 minutes before 5 o'clock, so I'm going to have to finish the stream now because, as I said, a video will go live as usual at 5 o'clock.
The UK does have trial by jury, unless it's for like a traffic offence, and you're guilty until proven innocent. So you actually have to prove yourself to be innocent. You're guilty automatically. But just because there's a trial by jury doesn't mean you get a fair hearing. But anyway, like I said, I have to go because it's almost 5 o'clock, and I said I'd be stopping by 5 o'clock. So see you.